Will the congregation please rise? Please sit. Good afternoon. Welcome to the celebration of Oskar Dietterlie's life. Oskar is of German descent, but was born in Romania after his family fled there to escape the war. From there, the family immigrated to Canada and ended in Calgary. Oskar and his brother operated Dietterlie Brother hardwood flooring until he started farming in High Prairie. He had these until he retired and moved into seniors' care. I had the pleasure of meeting Oskar in the late 70s when he had 2 dogs to give away. And I went to pick one up and he says, "Take both or none." So I took the 2 dogs and my kids named them Casey and Finnegan. Friends, we gather to grieve our loss and to comfort one another in our sorrow. We gather to give thanks for the life of Oskar and to surround his family and his loved ones with our support, strength, and encouragement. We will now have the eulogy presented by Curtis, a family friend.
First of all, thank you for everybody for coming out, and my condolences to the families that are around here. Oskar to me was a very good friend and like a second dad. So I know we've already covered this, but I will go on. So Oskar Dietterlie passed away at 10 p.m. February 7th in High Prairie, Alberta. I asked Ralph this morning, I don't know Oskar's middle name, and Ralph said, well, he doesn't have one. In those days, middle names were very expensive, so he didn't get one. So he was born February 2nd, 1932, in Basarabia, Romania, to an ethnic German family. A period of turmoil and harshness throughout Europe. Oskar was the second eldest of 8 children. He had 3 brothers and 4 sisters. Because the parents worked on the farm and all of the tasks that entailed in those days, his sister Ida was the primary caregiver for the children for the most part. In Oskar's words, he never went to school regularly and was sent to work wherever needed on the farm. As young as 4, he helped gather pigweed and haul water for the pigs, and at 5, he was handling horses in the field. In 1940, Europe went to war. And an agreement was made with the Russians that the Germans who had settled in Romania for over 200 years were to be returned to Germany. They were no longer welcome there. During that evacuation, many of the family's worldly belongings were just simply left behind. After a year in Germany, the family was assigned to a farm in Poland, where they remained until the family found that they then had to flee the approaching Russian army in Poland. Ethnic Germans, even civilians, were treated as enemies at the time. During this exodus, Oskar was just shy of 14 years old, and the conditions of the travel to Germany were very desperate and harsh. When back in Germany, it became apparent that Germans from other countries were not wanted there either. So Oskar started looking at immigrating, and arrived in Canada in 1951 at the age of 19 with the assistance of the Lutheran Church. Oskar worked in Saskatchewan on farms and in Northern Ontario working in the bush. In 1952, more of Oskar's family arrived in Canada and worked on a sugar beet farm in southern Alberta. Ida would then join the family in Canada a couple of years later. Oskar started applying for homestead land up in the Peace Country, and in 1960, he found some suitable land and started picking rocks. Ida and her family moved a mile away from Oskar's homestead in 1966, and Oskar spent summers working on the farm and winters working in Calgary laying hardwood floors. In January 1969, Oskar met someone, and that someone's name was Adele. In June of 1970, they were married and moved to a little rental house east of High Prairie, where they then saved money to build their house. In 1972, they were able to move into their house with no running water or electricity or cupboards, but it was theirs. In 1974, a swarm of bees came to the house and they decided to keep them. A beekeeping book was borrowed, and that encounter turned into 200 hives and a business. In addition to farming and keeping bees, Oskar found a passion for spending time in his workshop building little games, children's toys, and other useful things like round tubes. Between that and the honey business, they were off to farmers' markets. Later in 1983, they started teaching ballroom dancing to generations of students. Oskar was loving, caring, generous, and always had the humor dialed up to 9 or 10. As harsh as his younger years were, and frankly difficult to comprehend sometimes to me, he didn't carry that with him, and he had a positivity that just flowed out of him. Many remember the social gatherings, almost every farmer's market or gun show, many things that he made with his hands, exploding outhouses, round tubes, ping pong ball, guns, and the drink spiker that was always in his pocket. Oskar was many things to each individual, be it uncle, brother, mentor, or a very special friend. I also need to mention loving and devoted husband. It was my observation over the years that Oskar and his sweet wife Adele were very much in love, and the two were very inseparable. It was a pleasure to watch them dote on each other, and that's always going to leave a warm spot for me. My wife and I met the Dietterlies when we weren't married for very long, and I was told that I was going to be taking ballroom dance lessons. And so was my good friend Quinn and his wife. We went to the gym at the Catholic school and met the funniest guy and his sweet smiling wife. Right off the bat, Oskar informed everyone that he would be dancing with everyone, including the men. And I'll never forget that because he said that with the confidence and authority. I will be dancing with you all. One of my best memories was in a class where Oskar was dancing with Dennis Perpich. And Dennis had this big, huge grin on his face. Over the time that we did our dance training, it became clear to me that Oskar and Adele were a very special couple. And sometime after that, our families adopted each other, and they've been part of our family ever since, our families ever since. Oskar has watched my kids come into the world and grow to adulthood. Always bringing them handmade things, the chair, little toys, and of course those damn ping pong ball goodness. And of course we were never out of honey. Oskar's face was always beaming as he listened to the kids' stories and told them his own. Our family dinners were memorable. Oskar and Adele always dressed up in their best and really added class to the occasion. A few times a year I cook German food, and once I get going on it, I actually really enjoy doing it. And it turns out that Oskar likes to eat German food. And it brought me a lot of enjoyment watching him appreciate and enjoy it so much. I always make a lot so that it was always my pleasure to send packages home with them so they could enjoy it the next day as well. I didn't know Oskar when he was a younger man, but I wish that I had. In the later years, Oskar and Adele spent their retirement years teaching the odd dance class around High Prairie and the surrounding areas. displaying their honey products and Oskar's creations at the farmers market and trade shows in the areas. They put a lot of miles on them. And of course, visiting. May we all reflect and cherish the memories, advice, humor that Oskar gave us to us as individuals. I know that these chairs out here will be a treasure to our family for years to come, and my daughters will be able to explain to their children someday who the amazing person was behind them. Although we feel loss in whatever capacity that Oskar was to each of us, I hope we can all remember and celebrate his life and what he gave and what he left for us. Anybody want to hear an Oskar joke? An 80-year-old woman was arrested for shoplifting. When she went before the judge, he asked her, "What did you steal?" She replied, "A can of peaches." The judge asked her why she had stolen them, and she said, "Because I was hungry." The judge then asked how many peaches were in the can. Well, there were 6. The judge then said, "I will give you 6 days in jail." Before the judge could actually finish his sentence, the woman's husband spoke up and said, "Can I say something, Judge?" The judge says, "Yes, okay, what is it?" And the husband said, "She also stole a can of peas." Rest in peace, Oskar, you amazing man. We're all going to miss you. And thank you for the good times, the humor, the wisdom, the generosity, and the good memories. You taught us the importance of human connection and gave it freely. Prost, my dear friend. Prost. Thank you.
Thank you for the eulogy. We will now have open mic, and I would ask that you refrain from using abusive or vulgar language.